Hey guys, Segef for Frontlinetactic, and some more Kenshi play. Some of you know last week Kenshi 1.0 finally dropped. Congratulations to Chris Hunt, Natalie, and everyone else that's worked with Lofi Games. Some of the stuff I want to discuss with you guys is some of the patch notes that have kind of came out and helped stabilize with the new. Well, there's no longer really an experimental patch build. I don't think there's any more. So everything's now part of the main build. So those of you that are running experimental, you might want to jump to the main patch, because I don't know when the next experimental is going to come out. He has not mentioned anything that he's going to be currently working on other than basically fine-tuning any bugs or crashes that are currently going on. So far, there's been a ton of bug crashes, optimizations. The game runs smoother. Those of you guys that have watched my previous game know that my computer does not run this game sometimes as best as it could. But I've noticed a huge jump in basically how well it smooths, the panning. He's really polished this game up a lot. And so those of you that have been suffering the same way as I, that you've kind of chugged through not the best of frame rates and kind of graphic smooths, then the new stable patch is for you. Get her working on some intel. Another thing that's kind of came out is there's all the translations for the different languages. There's now supported, other than English, which is the base language, is now Spanish, French, Russian, Japanese, German, and Portuguese. Last that I read, this is 100% supported. I think they're still doing some tweaks, more or less. What would you call it? Kind of like lost in translations kind of a thing. For those of you guys that do run a big town, they did fix a big bug with the AI and the corpse disposal. That comes in really big handy. Those of you guys that have not played around with the corpse disposal machine, which is just essentially a furnace, it burns up any corpses that you have from animals or raiders that come through. This helps prevent you from getting more wild animals, and depends on where you set up shop. Some of the more aggressive and really nasty critters will come in, and it attracts them. Another really cool thing that I noticed was that there's more starting options. There's the hive reject, so to speak, that you've basically been kicked out of the hive for being a free thinker or the pheromones didn't take. And in the description it says that you will have pheromone withdrawal. I've thought about making a Hiver all play, just to play it out, as well as the Holy Nation Citizen and the United Citizen play is available, so you can start in one of those established towns, versus when you play like this build that I've started was the Nobodies, and you start out in the Hub, which is a decent enough city. Now, with the idea of new cities and start builds, I've been reading a lot on Reddit recently of people discussing how the best build. This game is really kind of starting to blow up a little bit. And I posted that what I like to do is set up an economy in an established city. So what we have here, as I pan out a little bit so you can see the city, is there is an ore relatively close to Hub. And so I basically did enough supply runs that I was running ore back and forth and selling it to the barkeep as well as to the rebel base. Basically getting in as many cats as I can. Which now it says just money. It doesn't say cats anymore. So I guess that's an edit or a change. And then I bought a house. Then I ran around, bought the building materials to fix it up, and slowly been buying resources. I now have a shop counter, which supposedly shop counters work now, but that's hit or miss. Hub doesn't get that many wanderers in, and no one's really bought my stuff, but then again, I also don't have very much trade supplies. So I believe if I had more food, cloth, water, things like that as a note, it would come in handy where people would purchase. Now, as we see right now, this is great timing, that you can see my supply chain. So this is also how I build my stats. So this is kind of a two-pronged thing. I build stats and build my income. On top of my roof here, there is a box, a resource box for ore. It can hold 100 ore, and then as they get 5, caps out that ore, one of them will peel off and run back to the town. This then, right here, as you can see, watch the strength grow. It kind of inches along, which is also one of the new updates, is the XP bars actually move in real time versus having to kind of flicker back and off and on to scroll around in order to get to see it. So you can actually see your characters gain XP in certain stats in real time. So you can kind of see how fast or how slow that these are gained. So as this individual carries the ore back to town, gains the strength stat and minor athletics, but then sprints back and then gains quite a bit of athletic stat on the way back while building labor. This is a relatively new recruit. So this is kind of the start build, and eventually you're going to get to the point where you're making a fast enough cash, or your stats are decent enough that you want to start exploring, and that's where the next part comes in a little tricky, is you get a large nest egg while still being able to feed yourself, get backpacks, resources. Sometimes you have to travel to a couple of outlying towns, and then go pick up or set out to either explore and use this as a continued hub at the hub, or set up your own shop. And that's what I've done in my other builds, is I just make my own small town and farm and eventually get self-sufficient, and then go on expeditions as I see fit without needing another city, so to speak, for an economy. I just make all my own gear. With that, some of my future plans, though, are to continue recruit members and name them after those that have supported me. My roster currently is Okinawa, Divination, and those are 2 big supporters. Next recruits, as I get money, is going to be AmmoKay. Those of you guys remember, AmmoKay and I used to communicate a lot back in the old days of Kenshi, and talking about builds and exploration and base building. He also has his own YouTube channel, which I haven't seen him active in a while, and I've kind of lost touch, but I'll put a link in the bottom below, as well as HistoricNerd. He's actually a pretty close friend. He also has his own YouTube and talks about basically the history of gaming and nerdism. I will also put a link in the section below for you to check him out. Big supporter of mine. So I know doing a straight playthrough and such is going to be quite boring for some individuals to watch, so I was thinking more or less trying to do almost like a travel kind of channel for Kenshi, talking about the various unique locations. There's no real quests in the game quite yet. There's like hints at certain locations or events that happen, so I'll try to capture some of those things that go on. And so I'll just, visit various unique and surprising locations that I find interesting that I've found. This also is going to be really fun with the new 4th quarter opened up that a lot of people have not quite ventured to, or like me, has dipped their toe in and then instantly regretted. I'm going to continue doing recruiting suggestions, so any other supporters of mine or people that have been actively watching me, please speak up, post in the comment section below, and as I get my base up and running and recruiting people, I will add you to the roster. Please tell me what kind of build you want to do, weapons, armor, things like that, and I'll try to accommodate your recommendation. Other than that, there's a ton of patch notes. We'll send the link in, but super excited of how smooth and polished Kenshi is now that it's finally released. It'd be interesting to see what next updates he ends up putting into the game. I know he has openly posted and added a claim to various modders that have came up with mods, so it'd be interesting to see how many of these mods he possibly implements or basically endorses some more. Alright guys, that's going to be it for me talking about the Kenshi release. Stay safe on the front line.